Hi, I'm A.B. Westrick, and I'm the author of Brotherhood. Right now, I'm filming from Richmond, Virginia, where we are under a COVID-19 stay-at-home order. So everything's kind of topsy-turvy right now. People are trying all different kinds of things. I thought I would too. I'm going to read the first chapter of Brotherhood. So that's it. If you have the book, great, follow along. If you don't have the book, I know you can go to Amazon and for free you can read a couple of chapters, so you can read along there if you'd like to. Okay, here we go. Brotherhood, Chapter 1, The Posse. The first sound Shad heard was the squawk of a chicken, then the thud of a fist on wood. Bam, bam, bam. The hollow walls rattled. A man's voice. "Mrs. Weaver?" The light was early yet, and Shad glanced beside him. His older brother lay asleep there in his trousers, right there on top of the white cotton ticking, hadn't even changed into a nightshirt. Shad nudged Jeremiah's shoulder and heard his brother grunt, but he didn't wake. The thud came again. Bam, bam. "Mrs. Weaver. Official business of the government of the United States. Open up." The voice was flat and nasal, not Virginia-born. Shad nudged Jeremiah harder this time, but still his brother didn't rouse. Shad rolled off the straw mattress, feet on cool dirt, and headed for the window, but at the sill he jumped back. Lord! There was a boy, maybe Jeremiah's age, 17, maybe a tad more, blonde like Jeremiah. He stood on the other side, only inches from Shad's face. Navy blue cap, blue uniform, brass buttons, musket on his shoulder. He said, "Going somewhere, Mr. Weaver?" The bedroom door flew open, and Shad spun around. Two blue-clad boys and a man stormed inside, and the man announced, "Jeremiah Weaver, you are under arrest." From somewhere in the house, Shad heard Mama yell, "You ain't got no right." He wanted to find her, protect her, but he felt a tug on his nightshirt. The outside boy had reached through the window and grabbed it, shouting, "He's trying to escape." Shad balled a fist to slam in the boy's face, but the man saw him and moved fast, crossing the little room and blocking Shad's upraised arm. The outside boy yanked the nightshirt. The man shoved, and Shad fell hard, his head hitting the sill on the way down. He heard the outside boy announce, "We got him." "Not this one," the man said. "The other one." Shad struggled to all fours, his head throbbing, anger mounting. The man pushed him down again, pinning him to the floor. Shad couldn't see more than a shuffle of boots and Jeremiah's bare feet while the boys dragged his brother from the house. Then he felt a stomp on his back, crushing his ribs. Air raced from his lungs. Shad choked, coughed, gasped to refill his chest. Images flashed through his mind. A man stuffed in a barrel, a man flailing his arms, and for a moment Shad thought he might vomit. He heard horses whinny out front, and he rose in pain, holding his ribs. He rolled over the windowsill and dropped the few feet to red dirt. But by the time he circled front, the posse was galloping toward Richmond. Not 2 minutes there and gone, and the little white house quivered with the rumble of hoofs. "Damn Yankees!" he yelled at their backs. He turned to see Mama, bug-eyed with fury. "Shadrach, you run into town and get your granddaddy." Her voice faltered, and he feared she would cry. "You hear me, son? Tell them they done arrested Jeremiah." "Well, yes, ma'am. I'll..." He reached for her. Mama was shaking all over. When he put his arms around her bony shoulders, her tears started running, so he set his head on top of hers. His mama was small, so very small. "Yes, ma'am," he whispered. "Don't you worry none. Everything's gonna be okay. I'll get him back." But truth to tell, He didn't think everything would be okay and didn't know if he could get his brother back. All he knew for sure was that Mama needed Jeremiah. It was always Jeremiah this, Jeremiah that, Jeremiah first, ever since Daddy left. Shed stroked Mama's hair, long, thin brown hair going gray from worry. Then he patted Mama's shoulder and settled her into a chair. He ducked into the bedroom for his breeches and burlap sack shirt. Oh, but the simplest movements, taking off his nightshirt, bending to pull up his breeches, sent pain through his innards like an arrow. Ow! You okay, baby? Called Mama. I'm fine, Mama, he lied. I'm fine. He released his breath, long and slow, erasing the strain from his face so that Mama wouldn't add him to her list of worries. He emerged from the bedroom and kissed her on the cheek. Then he ran. He could see the horses way up 9 Mile Road, a straight line cut through green fields gone to weed. The sun was low behind him, and it hit him. Oh, he had overslept, late for lessons again. But no, he couldn't go for lessons today, not today. He ran and ran, but his sides hurt, and soon enough his thighs seized up, and he couldn't keep on. His head ached, his chest. If that man roughing him up hadn't been bad enough, Shad was exhausted. He had hardly slept last night. Had it only been last night? The meeting of the Brotherhood, boys setting a farmhouse on fire, the smoke, the sparks, the roar of flames. It all came back, and a shudder went through him. His foot hit a rut in the road, and he stumbled, tripping forward, swinging his arms to keep his balance and stay upright. His ribs twisted, and he cringed. His breathing came hard. He looked up the road and couldn't see the horses anymore. He slowed. 2 full years since the war had ended, but the Yankees were still beating up on Virginia. 2 full years since the surrender of the greatest general the world had ever known, Robert E. Lee. 2 full years of Yankees patrolling Richmond's streets. He hated them. And before that, 4 years of fighting and food shortages and hotels turned to hospitals for men blown to bits by shrapnel and cannon. The war between the states was supposed to have secured Virginia's rights to make her own laws. South Carolina had seceded from the Union, and after a heap of argument, Virginia had seceded too, but it had all come to naught. Worse than naught. Every Southern family had lost a boy to battle, and most lost more than one. Daddy had dragged his feet, not wanting to fight, but he couldn't drag them forever. It was September 1862, 5 years ago, when he rode off on Mindy Girl to join Virginia's 62nd Cavalry Partisan Rangers Regiment. Shed had watched him wave goodbye, waving his whole arm, brushing it wide and wild against a white cloud sky, brushing so hard that for a moment Shed believed he'd brush the war away. Now, as he hustled up 9 Mile Road, Shed got tight in the throat thinking on scruffy old Mindy Girl, and Dad telling him he had 2 special girls in his life, his horse and his wife. Shed squeezed his hands into fists. He picked up his pace, then slowed again. He caught his breath. What would Daddy say now if he could see the fields lying fallow, if he knew they'd arrested Jeremiah? Only 14, and he had to handle this without Daddy, had to get Jeremiah back for Mama. His eyes caught a scrap of blue cloth stuck in a blackberry brambles, but he didn't stop. No, he couldn't take the time to pocket scraps this morning. Okay, that's chapter 1. So he's running into town, and he is just about to run into Rachel. And this is my picture of what I thought Rachel might have looked like. This story is set in 1867. And Rachel's picture or image didn't make it to the cover of the book. Okay, so that's it. That's the first chapter of Brotherhood. Thanks for listening, and during this crazy time, stay safe. Okay.